Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. 3,000 prisoners will be released starting November 4th, the day after Election Day, from the New Jersey prison system to mitigate some of the problems they are having with COVID-19. That is 20% of the total prison population allowed back into society. I spoke with Monmouth County Sheriff Sean Golden, who has some concerns. You have been quoted about being concerned, let's put it that way, at the release of 2,000 prisoners on November 4th. What is your concern?
Well, Larry, thanks for having me. There are several concerns. First and foremost, I always mention the victims and victims' families, because in all of this, it seems to be lost. When we look at the news releases and the press releases and the articles that have come out in reference to releasing additional inmates, some 2,000 potentially after Election Day, there is no mention of the victims and their families. And these aren't victimless crimes. I mean, yes, in the governor's statement, he had said murder and sex offenders, those aren't not being considered. But simple assaults, property crimes, and the like are still victim crimes with victims, and they are not being mentioned in this whole process. So that is one of the things that's very discouraging to me. The other is the simple fact, and admittedly by the administration, that there is no solid plan for re-entry into our communities. And by that, I mean, there's no solid plan. And I think even to their own admission, they have stated they don't have enough resources to address those that are being released with mental illness, those that are being released that face potential homelessness, and those that are being released that have drug addiction. Take, for instance, in Monmouth County, back in April when COVID-19 first started, we had released 44 inmates. 20 have reoffended in some way. Out of the 44, 20 have reoffended. And we're talking about 103 different reoffenses or rearrests. One individual, 54 times she has been rearrested, one for an assault on a first aider, others for trespass and simple assault, shoplifting. Certainly an individual that should not be out in our community. Let's
start with the fact that you said that the victims' families are not being considered in all this. They're all being notified, aren't they?
Yeah, according to the victim witness and the laws, they're being notified. But where are they in part of the conversation? They are not at the table. They are not even mentioned to be at the table in any of the articles or news releases, which, all the victims will be notified. But how do they feel about this, Larry? What is their input into releasing a person that has offended them or their families?
The mayor of Trenton had a concern with the release for another reason. He said, he brought up the one point that you brought up, that the social services don't get a chance to do proper reentry. But he also pointed out that the fact that he's been contacting the Murphy administration to find out who's going to be in his community, and he's not getting any answers. Are you getting answers?
No, we do not have a list of who's going to be re-entering in our community. We don't. And, again, that goes to the lack of communication really between law enforcement when it comes to this. We may be against it in terms of releasing, but it's not to say we can't shape the policies so we can have an effective release, like you said, so that we know victims are notified. We know cities and towns are ready and notified of reentry, that we know the reentry services, whether it's Governor McGreevy's Reentry Corp, so they have at least a chance to maybe restore their license, get a job, get housing, have assistance with a resume, addiction services. All that is in the Reentry Corp's wheelhouse. But is that happening? Is that where they're going to be referred to? We have no idea.
Yeah, I talked to the ACLU, their legal counsel, about the bill. They were supporting the bill before it was signed. And they say they don't even understand what the consternation is about the bill, because they said these people are going to be out in 6 months anyway, many of them within a couple of months. And so they were going to be released anyway. We're just quickening the release by a few months so they don't get sick and they don't make other people sick. What do you think?
But are we quickening the release? And you're talking about staggered releases, not all at one time. Now we're expediting that, and we're in a rush to release 1,000 inmates or 2,000 inmates. Is that now going to overwhelm the system?
You're not saying that early release in a pandemic is a bad thing. Early mass release is a problem.
Correct.
2,000 at a time.
Correct. And even but even with the pandemic, if you're using it as an excuse to release, again, I don't necessarily buy into that. If that is the agenda, that's if that's the political agenda, I'll call it, on the dime. We have made tremendous strides in correctional facilities throughout the state of New Jersey to catch up with PPE gear, testing inside the facility. I'm proud to say in Monmouth County, in my correctional facility, we've only had 3 cases of COVID. Is that the number? Is that the driving force, or is it more an agenda-driven force that we're releasing inmates from the facilities?
You're going to be pressuring the Murphy administration for the names of the people that are coming to Monmouth County?
Yeah, we want to know anyone that's being released and coming back into our communities. I mean, that's a simple fact of the matter, and what their offenses were. I mean, obviously we can look that up, but we do want to know the names of releases. And again, what is being done to simply lean on churches to step up? Is that enough for us to curb the homelessness and curb the addiction and mental illness? I'm not so sure it is.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. I appreciate it. You're always gracious with your time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Sean Golden, Monmouth County Sheriff. When we come back, November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and we will introduce you to a woman known around the world who has written a book of poems about her diagnosis for Alzheimer's. That's when Jersey Matters comes right back.